Alright, so we're back in the world of where winds meet, and in today's video guys, we're going to be going over some pretty advanced tips. I spent the last couple of hours trying to figure out some of the best tips that I've learned in the last couple of weeks, and I wanted to pile together some of the better tips that I think a lot of players may have missed, or just some things I've been doing recently to maximize my farming and or progression on my character. I've noticed there has been a lot of tip videos going out that hasn't really addressed anything too new, so I wanted to add some stuff that I actually found out recently that could help you out. As always guys, if you're interested in staying up to date on all things where winds meet, make sure you are following the channel, and with that, let's dive right on into the first set of tips. Alright, first things first, let's talk about farming materials, because this is something a lot of players are going to have a problem with. As you can probably tell, if you look on the map, there are a mountain of outposts that will give you resources. And the great thing about resources, for example, this one is, you have a location where you can shoot a barrel, and you can basically guarantee that you get this kill super easy. Now, what you're going to do is come down here and grab these materials, and then naturally, what you would do is, you would just maybe leave out. It's not very efficient to do that, they're still here, you need to go far away. The best way you can do that is actually just flying up. And the problem with flying up is it takes a lot of time. But if you build a device like this, as you can see here, I'm running towards the wall. We're just going to jump up. And this essentially catches us. And this is like a catching device. So now when we come back down and look over, boom, we can just keep resetting and refarming. And you have a super efficient way of doing it. Now, I will say I would probably put this device a little bit differently. Like, if I'm being honest, I would probably put it like a little bit closer. So like I would probably put it like, I don't know, over here or something. Maybe even right here is fine, right? Because it'll catch you, and then you can just jiggle peek over to the side and grab that. I don't want them to aggro me. But anyway, this is the first tip I want to give you guys, just a efficient way of building it. And I'm just going to show you the structure itself as well. Oh, no. Go away. I'm gonna show you the structure itself. You can press the little asterisk button, you can go to free camera, and then you can just come here and build it. And it's a pretty simple build. It's just a bunch of sticks straight up, just a wall straight up, and then you just put two walls on the right. Well, one wall on the right, one on the right, and then two above. And this is just a catching device, essentially, just catching your forward momentum. You just want to be high enough that it resets them. So yeah, this is my first tip. I think this is a great way, and you can do this on literally any location, depending on whatever you want to farm. Just make sure you don't kill every enemy. This is like one of the best locations to farm it. All right, next, let's do one of my favorite pastimes as a YouTuber and correct bigger YouTubers' misinformation. Now, unfortunately, as usual, there's some misinformation spreading for oddities this time, funny enough. Whoever put fallen signpost next to him, you're a dick. Anyway, as you can see here, I maximize all my melodies a piece, and one of the biggest spread of misinformation going on right now is that you should be picking and choosing these very carefully, because you could run out of, oddities. For example, we know the Dagger General is specific to this region, as well as the Whisper Hive. This is another one specific to this region. So for example, as we can see here at the this location here, we don't have all the oddities collected, so there's 5 out of 7 here within the village. I think does it have oddities here? We still have 2 out of 6 here done, 4 out of 6 done. So as you can probably tell, there's still not a ton, but there are still a ton of oddities available. So I just want to make sure to correct that information, that for example, that the oddities, there are still always going to be a number of oddities that you can get. The team inherently designed it in a way that you will always have enough, because it wouldn't even make sense for a gameplay loop to not have it that way. You would never be able to reasonably find it if it was just a one-for-one thing. So the extra oddities don't actually do anything. It's just an extra like buffer so that you can actively get it. I wanted to correct this information because some players weren't actually selecting things in the new region because they were worried they won't have enough oddities. You absolutely can do it, so just wanted to correct that. Alright, next let's talk about some combat tips that I surprisingly just started doing that actually will help you significantly. One of the most important things that I picked up watching PvPers is that you should generally be blocking when you're playing the game. One thing I had a bad habit of doing is just parry all the time. Always try to parry, always try to parry, but I always left myself open for attacks. And one thing you can do, and I would highly recommend you doing whenever you're not attacking or not parrying, is just hold your block up, because it still will reduce damage that you're taking. So in the event that you actually like parry too late or something, or parry too early, whatever the case is, your block is still actively up and the enemy would still, maybe hit you and you'll still take damage, but you won't be super punished for, making a mistake on that parry timing. This obviously could be something still used in PvP as well. Just keep your blocking up so that you're not taking extra damage. I promise you in the long run, from just like a PvE or PvP perspective, it's going to save you a ton of damage taken, and it's a really effective tool. All right, next let's talk about antiques. So if you've been playing, you've noticed that in your inventory, I can't necessarily show you because I have like deleted a lot of my antiques like an imbecile, but you'll notice there's some items down here at the bottom in your gear that you can't necessarily like salvage up, and they're called antiques. And the purpose of these antiques is that you actually give them to NPCs around the map, and they'll give you like bonuses for turning them in. Now, how do you find out which NPCs that you give them to? Well, come over here to this essence guy located here in, I'm showing you this region. I'm not sure if Kaifeng has one. I'm sure it does, but it's called the Fate Incense Burner. And what this does is it's going to make it so that it can give you clues to find where certain people who want these antiques are located. So what you're going to do is come over to this guy, and he's going to ask you to give him like an item. And I'll go over to the menu quickly here. And during your exploration, you will get this at 5, and it's called this memories. You use this to light the incense burner and discover clues about the history of your antiques. Now, this is just something you're going to get naturally from progressing, and you're just going to bring it to this guy and you're going to hand it to him. When you hand it to him, he's going to basically cost, I think it's like 500 gold or whatever, and you're going to ask about the past, and this is going to essentially give you the ability to get a clue to where some of the antiques that you have are supposed to be turned in. So for example, the crescent ring clue is antique related to the blissful retreat history. Rumor says the Jade pendant once belonged to the great hero of the well of the heaven, yada yada yada. Go to the still shore, retrace his footsteps, and share his sentiments. So obviously this clue is just basically telling you where exactly you need to go to find where you need to bring the antiques. I know those have been sitting in your menu and they're super annoying and I hate them. I actually ended up deleting them because I didn't know better. So just be careful of that. I'm not sure how to recover it, but for those of you who want to like figure out how to do it, this is how you do it. All right, for my next tip, let's talk about giving yourselves a little bit better towards inner ways. And honestly, I'm a little bit reluctant to talk about this tip because I don't know if this is the best way to go about using it, but I'm still going to show it to you. So coming over here, we're going to come to our inner ways, come to our tips exchange, and in your tip exchange, this is going to give you the ability to exchange certain tips to get other tips. And you're going to basically, do some tip recycling, and you can psych out some tips that you think are not worthy. So for example, we could in theory, cycle this out. I'm just going to do it for science. Actually, this one's actually decent. I like that one. No, we're not doing that one for science. Let's see which one we're going to do for science. Shadow Soul's also pretty good. We're going to do this one, and we're going to do this one for science. And as you can see here, we can select some of the tips to just swap it out. So we're going to confirm that, and we're going to swap this out, and we got some tip exchange, right? The vintage book plates. Now we have 45 of them, and now we can cycle out whatever it is we want to accomplish. As you can see here, we're going to build towards Bell Strike because that's what we do. We do Bell Strike because of the nature of our build. And we got Sword Morph, which is actually pretty decent for our build. And we got Adaptive Steel. We got Bitter Seasons. Pretty decent exchange in the grand scheme of things. But for the most part, as you can see here, you can just keep doing this. Personally, I will say though, I'm not a big fan of this because I generally don't know what my personal build is going to be in the future. So I don't typically exchange these too heavily. So I would just say, I still want to present it to you so you know that it exists. But in the same vein, just be careful on usage because you may actually change to a build later and you're like, oh wait, I had the things I needed. You may screw yourself. Over here, this is kind of the same thing with the inner way. You could, in theory, we'll use this one. And you want to choose a different inner way to put it on. So let's say I want to break through and put it here. And then you can convert the inner way over to this and give another inner way a certain like benefit. Once again, I personally would not do this because again, I don't know what I'm going to be using in the future. It's way too early in the game to make this, you know, to do this. But in my opinion, you could in theory like convert these tips over to this one and then get more valuable tips for this and just, you know, upgrade something specifically. All right, next let's talk about Echo Jades, because you've watched the channel over the past couple of weeks. You notice one thing I always talk about is not using our Echo Jades because, well, they're very valuable and they're important for different progression systems. As you can see here, I have 9,599 Echo Jades. I always talk about what you shouldn't do. Let me show you what you could spend it on, because I think that's actually pretty healthy. So coming to the shop, one thing I would highly recommend you do is get the lingering melodies. These are on a weekly basis and you will easily earn enough to get these. The problem with getting these other ones, for example, these resonating ones, is they are limited. And as you can see here, I have the potential to you know, overspend because I'm a gambling addict. So one thing I would highly recommend is just, if you want to gamba just to feed your addiction, just come over here and buy the lingering melodies, because this is going to give you a little bit of a gamba addiction and it's not going to break the bank. 400 is very easy to get and it's on a weekly basis, and then you can go and gamba with it. Another very valuable location to actually spend your jades is here, located in Kaifeng. We've talked about this vendor a few times, but it's worth noting. You can talk to this goober here and he will sell you things for jades if you are trying to build towards a certain build. For example, I could in theory get my insightful strike fully not fully maxed out, but you know, get some really good optimization on it. This would be super good, and you could go around in theory and, you know, max something out here. This is another great jade location to actually spin. All right, now for our final tip, and this is a big one, so you're gonna have to stick with me, but it's super efficient when you do it the way I'm gonna explain it. So when you take a look at the map, you'll notice that there are ways to specifically specify things that you want to find. Let's say, for example, you want to get like some type of, I don't know, like potions or something. What you can do is just put it on the map so that it marks the location of them, and it will just show you exactly where you can find it. So as you can see here, now that I clicked it, it's going to show me where they are. So this is here, over here. All this stuff is different locations here. Super good, super nice. You're going to always track towards them, and then you can find the items. Now, one thing that's super important while you're doing so, and this is like a second tip technically, is coming over to the back, because I don't know how to get to this menu. You can go to the crafting function, and while I haven't been able to do it yet because I'm a slacker, there's different buffs that will give you different benefits. These are going to become significantly more important when you're actually doing maybe more like guild focused stuff. You start doing some of the tougher content, because content will get tougher. So I would recommend you like actually learn these things, by the way. But in addition to that, there's also these manuals here, which are going to give you different benefits and bonuses. And some of them will actually give you the ability to gather more plants to make them more efficient. So when you're running around the map actively picking up these different plants, you're going to get the ability to just basically get more. Now, in addition to this, because you're actively running around the map, there are a few things that can be very useful for like actually giving you better resources. As you see here, this ability called Shadow Assault, what it does is touch of death is increase it by range, which isn't important, but if you actually go into the inner raid breakthrough, which I'm heading towards right now, Shadow Assault, for example, after a successful ambush, there's a high chance to obtain loot from the target. Now, you grab this, for example, and you use Shadow Assault, and this is just essentially going to make it so that you get additional free loot, because a lot of times when you're running around those areas, there's like enemies in that area, so you can just jump around, assassinate them, and then just get free extra loot from the target to make your farming more efficient. Now, of course, this isn't going to be like the best loot in the world, right? But over the course of, let's say, a month you're actively doing this, you're going to see significantly more loot than the like average player who's not doing this, because you're just going to be getting more resources. Keep in mind, when you're actively exploring the world, you're not necessarily like fighting anything strong. You're not fighting a boss or anything, so being able to swap your skills out a little bit isn't going to kill your build, because these enemies are weak and you're ambushing them anyway. Long story short, there's just a way to make your like farming way more efficient, from just food buffs, from just being able to know that you can actually target farm them, and then using things like ambush, for example, to give you like more benefits, is actually going to improve your gameplay overall a massive amount. And there you have it, guys. That is several huge tips that I think are going to help you guys out significantly. I want to make sure to correct some misinformation while also giving you guys some super valuable tips that's just going to supercharge your gameplay and just make it much easier for you to progress your character. Now, if these tips did help you out, please guys consider leaving me a like, as well as subscribing and even commenting, just for visibility. I really want players to actually see a video like this so that they're actually getting good tips. As usual, guys, I stream pretty regularly here on Twitch as well as YouTube, so so feel free to come check out the channel. Really appreciate you all stopping by, and just like that, young masters, I'll see you in the next one very soon.